like something that millennials
Yeah,
ने थोड़ा सा सोचा, but Gen Z is trying to practice it कि
very true.
every workplace that you are going to be a part of is going to be a community at the end of the day. It's going to be a
Mhm.
tribe.
Hi, everybody. Today I have a really, really good friend of mine, Saad Hamid. I think I knew you since the beginning of my startup journey for sure, because that's when I was dipping toes in Islamabad and you were already so active. You were in the Payoneer community and then you were in Invest to Innovate and then you had all these other organizations that you were a part of. Always being a voice for the freelancer community back then and now, and I think now, mashallah, you've done so much since then up until now, and we're going to talk about your journey as well. But I think just to start off, I don't know if you remember, but one of the few first times we met was a Payoneer session that you were doing. And I think there's one thing that's still stuck in my head since that session is when you showed 2.4 and then like zeros after that. And then later people were like, and you were like, "Nahi, mujhe batao ye hai kya?" Right? And everybody was like, "Pata nahi, I think it might be like a tax percentage ya kya hai? I don't understand." And then you went ahead and said that was my GPA and this is how much I earned. And I think that's literally like blew everybody's mind. And they're like, "Nahi yaar, ye kya hota hai? You know, freelancing and then Payoneer, and how do you connect those two dots?" So I think I'm going to give it back to you so that you can share how you started. Let's go back to the days of Beria University, what you learned as a degree, and then let's go from there.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Sanya. Very, very excited to interact with you again. I think we keep interacting, but
Yeah.
this is kind of a new format that we're exploring.
True.
It's fun to do this as well. And I think yes, ये journey वाला सवाल मेरे लिए इसलिए थोड़ा सा is always challenging because there's so much that I've been through. But I'll
Correct.
try to overall summarize. I do like इससे मुझे idea होता है कि how old I've gotten. I
Mhm.
don't even remember that event or that instance, but I'm pretty
Wow.
sure I
Yeah.
would have referenced my CGPA at one point because it used to be very bad. और वो मुझे काफी लोग obviously parents याद दिलाते रहते थे कि आपका
Mhm, of
CGPA
course.
कब रहा है. लेकिन basically I think I'll start with my bachelor's. So I did my bachelor's in 2010 in
Mhm,
electrical engineering from Bahria University, Islamabad, with a very bad CGPA,
mhm,
but with a lot of side hustles. जब मैं अपने यूनिवर्सिटी में था तो I was running this um, website
mhm.
which was used to focus on like online tips, iPhone वगैरह और इस तरह की चीजें. And that's something through which I used to make money. So I was a publisher
Right.
online
Mhm.
through which ads laga ke I used to make
Right.
money from that. It's really funny because that's not now what I do at Google for my clients and partners.
Yeah.
So it's kind
I
of
was
like
just about to say it's like
coming.
a full 360, but on the other side
It's
of the
like a
table.
full 360, and that's actually one of the reasons how I'm able to work with my partners very closely
Yes.
because I've been this myself. So I've
Mhm.
been
True.
through this cycle. So overall, Berry University से start किया, और उसके बाद it's been multiple things. I think my first job was in a digital agency in Lahore, Bremers. फिर उसके बाद I did jazz में नौकरी for some time.
Mhm.
Then I went to an accelerator, I2I, with Kalsoom and the team. And there I made some amazing friends. For example, Meena, who's now building the startup called
Yeah.
Metric.
Mhm.
Esan, Amal, some of the other. Esan is a very old buddy of mine from college. फिर TEDx भी हमने काफी कराया. We had been doing that for 10
But I
whole
think I
years.
have to say कि Invest to Innovate वाली जो team थी, like the founding team, I think was like a full powerhouse, honestly. Like each and every member has gone off to, जैसे like हर university का एक batch होता है, right? For me, like when I look at Invest to Innovate वाली वो वाली team when it all started, I think now when I see what everybody's doing, I'm like, Kamal, yeah, like it's amazing how they were the ones who started, like one of the pioneers in the ecosystem, and now they're off to such amazing things on their own. So that's really nice to see.
True, true. And I think वही एक चीज है जो like I think what used to bring us together. But
Mhm.
मैं अपने लिहाज से जब सोचता हूँ तो I try to look at as something fun. Like I remember it as a fun team, not a
Yeah.
very entrepreneurial या breakthrough
Mhm.
team. We had a really fun team. I remember जो मेरी like some of the best time of my life was
Wow.
during the I2I time because we were very focused on what we were doing. It used
True.
to bring us a lot of impact in the community as well.
Mhm.
And then there was Kalsoom Lakhani, who's the CEO. So unki leadership, working with her, that was really of immense learning, I would say. and then like making friends with all these your colleagues and entrepreneurs
Yes.
जिनके साथ आप काम करते थे. So overall, I think that was a very, very kind of impactful,
Mhm.
kind of fun time. I always remember that as my, safe space from old times,
Right.
because now I'm part of this,
Mhm.
obviously,
Yeah.
corporate routine. So it's a very different
True.
kind of, pace here.
Mhm.
तो I2I
I have
था
to ask you one
उसके
thing,
बाद.
Saad. एक और
Yes,
चीज मैंने
yes.
पूछनी है इस पर कि you are someone who's like me, super connected, right? And what I mean by that is you are an amazing community builder. Like in terms of building communities and building trust within communities, I think you've done an amazing job. And I would want to go further into that later on because there's so many communities, mashallah, that you worked with and also bridged the gap between all of them at the same time. So I really want to understand, Ki, was Invest to Innovate the time where you started the idea of building communities? Was that relevant to your role back then? And then somehow that, working, like doing it for fun and doing it for work also sort of just played on into becoming a part of your lifestyle.
I think so. That's a very good question. I think community building वाला जो थोड़ा सा कीड़ा है मेरे अंदर,
Mhm.
जो अभी भी I try to practice even at
Yeah.
Google. अभी recently I hosted like a whole
Mhm.
gathering of Pakistani Googlers in
I saw
Singapore.
that. Yeah.
So वो I think ज़्यादा it originated from my TEDx time,
Right.
which is 2009 या 10 में 2010
Right.
में. It actually originated from that. And then what happened was that wherever there was relevance,
Mhm.
that kept happening. So एक जो चीज़ मैं इतना ज़्यादा सोचता नहीं हूँ, लेकिन I think I've not recalled or reflected, but which actually happened was मेरा जो jazz में role था,
Mhm.
which was on online reputation management, that was more around community building. And actually
Wow.
उस level की community building अभी भी मैंने, I'm not sure, maybe होती हो, like that was one of the earliest stages of a telco coming into
Right.
going into community building with influencers. So this
Wow.
is 2010.
Mhm.
2010 में what we used to do was कि we used to bring bloggers,
Mhm.
influencers. और ये तब की बात है जब अभी Twitter is very new,
Yeah.
influencers और creators का concept भी नहीं है.
Cool.
Those kind of things. So that's where we started with community building, and then TEDx भी साथ साथ हुआ, और फिर I think jazz के बाद it was like I2I, जिधर it like kind of really bloomed more,
Mhm.
because startup world में तो community building is a very, very integral part of how the world operates.
Yeah. True.
तो वहां से it went more, and then उसके साथ साथ भी I was part of other communities, Global Shapers by the World Economic Forum,
Mhm.
Acumen की community है, um, and then lots of others as well. So I think everything helped pave way for the other thing, but that's how it all came together.
Mm-hmm. But I would also want to know that all of these communities, mashallah, are really prestigious ones as well, right? In case jo processes and to even get involved sometimes seems like a far-fetched idea, or it could be to some people. So I do want to understand that how were you able to be a part of these communities, like starting from TEDx to Global Shapers and then World Economic Forum. And like you said, like one thing did lead to another. So I just want to understand, like, how was that process for you? And how did you even choose, like, yeah, these are the communities that I want to be a part of, and this is what I'm going to get out of it, or this is the impact I want to create by joining this type of community?
Perfect. So, and before I even get into that, एक community जो मैं actually भूल गया जिसकी वजह से मैं आज Google
Yeah.
में हूँ, is actually the Google Developers Group
Yes.
that I
Yeah.
started in Islamabad, which I started as a volunteer and then became a Google developer expert, then worked with the developer relations team, and now in this app growth team. So वो भी community इसी तरह आई, because my friend who I met through the blogging community, Haris Nadeem, was running a chapter in Lahore for
Same.
GDG, for GDG Lahore.
Mm-hmm.
एंड जो इस्लामाबाद वाला था उसको कोई एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता था, तो आई स्टार्टेड जीडीजी इस्लामाबाद. ओवरऑल यार, इट्स जो मुझे इसकी थोड़ी सी एक वो लगती है कि फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू रियली नीड टू बिलीव
Mm.
that connecting with people will change your life. So मुझे शुरू से काफ़ी शौक था कि यार अच्छा, and I still do that by the way, even actively since I moved to Singapore, I try to actively engage with people to see what they are up to. यहाँ पे Web3 की काफ़ी communities हैं that I'm trying to be a part of. There are some other communities as well. So
So,
पहले तो आपको हमेशा से दोस्तों से पता लगेगा कि what are the networking opportunities or
mhm.
communities that you should be involved with. And then something will make sense कि आप कहेंगे अच्छा चलो ये community interesting है, this resonates with me as well. And then eventually what happens is you find a sweet spot. एक community होती है जिसमें लोग अच्छे होते हैं,
Mhm.
these are the sort of people that you want to hang around with and have fun with. And साथ they're doing something impactful as well. Like,
Yep.
they are doing something which actually changes lives or helps bring economic outcomes, economic opportunities. जिस तरह हमारी freelancing वाली community, वो कर रही
Mhm.
थी. So it's a mix of everything. So you like the people, you like the economic opportunity that it brings, um, you like spending time on this,
Right.
and then you land कि यार अच्छा ठीक है, what do I want to get out of it and what do I want to give back. So
Mm-hmm.
with all communities, Acumen, Payoneer, Global Shapers, Upwork, this Google Developers Group, और भी बहुत हैं because I've been a part of many.
Yes,
I
that's
think
true. Yeah.
it's really comes down to like what you want to get out of it and how you're contributing to that.
Correct.
आजकल जो एक community मुझे बहुत पसंद है that I'm very actively a part of is the Stanford की lead community. So
Nice. Okay.
Stanford का एक executive program है called Stanford Lead, which I've joined. It's a global community of mid-career people,
Great.
who interact with each other, learn with each other. So for me, it's such an integral part of how I operate.
True.
कि I at every stage of my life I need to have a community with me कि यार अच्छा अब मैं किस चीज़ का
Mhm.
part हूँ, what is there to look forward to.
Right.
And then sometimes you feel like you're part of a tribe. I think जो tribe वाला method है या formula है मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है that you're a part of a tribe
Right.
and you try to stay with that tribe, and you try to learn from each other and you try to stay because life at the end of the day is a kind of a journey.
Very
मतलब
true.
आप अकेले कितना कुछ कर लेंगे कितना आगे चले जाएंगे. So
Okay.
you eventually you have a tribe that you keep talking to, eventually run into, and that's how you make friends. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I love doing. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, that when you look for another opportunity, or when you're joining like a workplace like Google, right? For you, again, correct me if I'm wrong, or I might like har bande ka apna version hai. But listening to you talk about community and the passion, that you bring in with every conversation about it, I'm just trying to understand that when looking for another workplace or looking for a new job, I think the brand or whatever would come second, but the community that you're going to be a part of would be the first priority for you. Like that's what you want to join whenever you're looking for another workplace or another job opportunity for yourself. Would I be right in
Of
assuming that?
course, that plays a very important role because, and especially this is, I think, like something that millennials
Yeah,
ने थोड़ा सा सोचा, but Gen Z is trying to practice it. कि
very true.
every workplace that you are going to be a part of is going to be a community. At the end of the day, it's going to be a
Mhm.
tribe. At Google, we are so fortunate because यहाँ पे इतनी communities हैं, it's sometimes hard to keep a track of. There's a community, which I'm a part of called I Am Remarkable. It's founded by
Yep.
Google, so I'm part of that. Here, there's an internal community of, there's a thing called Search Inside Yourself, which is about mindfulness. There's another community. फिर यहाँ पे एक और community है, which is like, about helping young people with,
Mhm.
their careers. I volunteer a lot. So actually, खैर Google में तो there are a lot.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure Meta, Amazon, TikTok,
Yeah.
या बाकी companies may be all over. Even smaller
True.
startups would have those communities. And the thing is कि अगर कोई community नहीं exist करती, you can always create your own one.
I love that mindset.
Bring people
Yes.
together. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, you
True.
can create your
I
own one, bring people together, and figure out how it goes.
Exactly, because I think it's also really being about like about being proactive as well, right? Because I think a lot of people say कि यार volunteering के लिए मेरे पास time नहीं है, I don't have time for this. I mean, you as well, right? You have a full-time job and then you have all of these communities, mashallah, that you're a part of. And with the community, obviously, there's so many people that are a part of each of those communities that you're dealing with. And a person like you, I'm assuming, gets a lot of questions and a lot of advice being asked around because you've had a really solid experience, mashallah. So, but I want to ask you, what's the best advice that you've received from a community member or a moderator or anyone who's been a part of any of your communities so far?
I think overall, like advice, I'm just trying
Mhm.
to recall more like reflection is, something that I can share, which
Sure.
is यही कि, I think I'm not exactly like वो words मुझे सही तरह से याद नहीं आ रहे, so I'm just going to explain जो
Mhm.
थोड़ा सा मैंने अभी तक सीखा है, what overall the reflection is based on what I've
Yep.
heard so far and the advice people have been giving. लेकिन पॉइंट ये है कि जिस तरह भी मैंने पहले कहा कि you're part of this really complex system in the world in which you need connections, and those connections will lead to new opportunities.
Mhm.
So you have to believe that you have to have that intent. I think intent wala part बहुत जरूरी है. You
Right.
have to have that intent that connecting with someone or with some idea will change your life. And
Right.
it eventually does. Because if you don't believe in it, you will never connect with people.
Correct.
And it's like a self fulfilling prophecy कि अगर आप बिलीव ही नहीं करते तो आप कनेक्ट ही नहीं करेंगे, आप कनेक्ट ही नहीं करेंगे तो आपको उसमें से मिलेगा क्या। लेकिन अगर आप बिलीव करते हैं कि यार मैं इस कम्युनिटी से कनेक्ट होऊंगा, या आई ब्रिंग दिस पीपल टुगेदर, या आई विल एक्चुअली डू समथिंग as part of this new group, then that will actually happen. But I think it has to start with intent, because
Absolutely.
unless you believe it,
Mm-hmm.
you'll not be able to do it. And people
Right.
will start thinking कि यार अच्छा इसका मुझे क्या फायदा है, मैं क्यों करूँ। And there comes a time जब आप like एक certain phase से गुजरते हैं कि you say कि अब I don't want to be a part of this community anymore, I don't have the time. It is
Mm-hmm.
perfectly fine. But I would not recommend कि आप पहले दिन से you just shut the idea
Yeah.
कि you don't want to be a part of something, because connecting with people and connecting with ideas like changes lives.
True.
और अभी बल्कि मैं अपने अगर लिंक्डइन पे देखूं
Mm-hmm.
तो मैंने आज की वो कवर फोटो यही रखी हुई है। आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू रीड इट आउट फॉर यू।
I was about to ask you about that. Yes. And I'm glad that
Yes.
you're bringing it up
No,
yourself.
no matter what people tell you, words and ideas can change the world. So that's what the cover photo says,
Yes.
and you have to believe in it that
Mm-hmm.
connecting with people, talking about new ideas will change your life in one way or the other. I would have never imagined okay, I would have landed into this role if it weren't for like people that I had talked to or people that I had run into. And it's a long story, long journey, but you have to have that intent.
Absolutely. I was actually just about to ask you, like, how do you feel like that journey of yours with different communities has helped you with this role in Google?
It would be, yeah, it would have been difficult to kind of land here without that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Or even agar मैं land कर भी जाता, it's not about landing, it's about really feeling like I feel every day very passionate about the customers, partners that I work with, because I had been part of that community. So I was a
Right.
publisher myself with Google back in the days. Um, freelancers के साथ मैं interact कर रहा था। कल I was talking to a partner, and it was very interesting interaction because I was talking to them for the first time. कुछ
Mm-hmm.
clients होते हैं हमारे जिनको भी on board for the first time, and
Yeah.
he said कि आप आज से पता नहीं कितने साल पहले एक event में आए थे, and that's where I kind of saw you. So
Wow.
it eventually kind of creates that connection
Correct.
and breaks the ice, because like I would want to be in a place where I'm just not working
Mm-hmm.
just bring the numbers or just to get the work done, but actually I feel passionate about changing the market economics.
Mm-hmm.
Current role में I work with developers, तो
Right.
हमारी जो सारे
Wow.
पाकिस्तान में mobile developers हैं who are building apps and who are monetizing them. So I
Right.
think there's a huge opportunity uh, for that. And why I know that is because I used to be a part of this community.
Correct.
So I can I have that passion.
Mm-hmm.
मतलब अगर आप में passion वो ना हो, so you would just wake up as a dead soul, just
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
done with things in life, which again I know is okay as well. But if you have passion, so I think you'll be able to drive more of yourself to reach the impact,
True.
and you would be able to create a movement. I think the only difference between एक जो कम्युनिटी वाले लोग हैं और जो बाकी लोग हैं उनमें ये फ़र्क होता है कि आई थिंक जो कम्युनिटी से लोग आते हैं दे आर एबल टू क्रिएट मूवमेंट्स। उनके लिए
Mm-hmm.
कंपाउंडिंग इफेक्ट इतना स्ट्रांग होता है कि दे आर एबल टू गेट थिंग्स डन वेरी इजीली बिकॉज दे नो समवन।
True.
उनको पता होता है यार आज मैं किसी से बात करूं, लेट्स ब्रिंग इन दिस आइडिया, लेट्स कनेक्ट विद दिस, एंड इवेंचुअली यू लैंड विद समथिंग। But if you don't know who to talk to, then
Mm-hmm.
how will you kind of have that compounding effect of creating long term impact? So
Very true.
that's the kind of difference I've
Yeah.
seen between both these segments.
I'm actually so glad that you mentioned that it's not just about landing the opportunity, right? Because, and it's the same thing applies to universities as well, right? It's not just about landing your next admission in the top university. It's actually about making the most of it. What is your network after that? No, I'm not talking about net worth, but network, because that's the biggest asset that you can build, right? Wherever you go. But in terms of communities, Saad, since you have been a part of the freelancer community in Pakistan, and I think that's been a core part of your journey, especially like since the beginning and mashallah up until now as well. How do you see the freelancer community? Like since you've seen the growth like firsthand, like if you can maybe share more about that, since how it was back then when you started off and now where it is.
Yeah, so the freelancing community, I think was still like जो अभी मैंने देखा है उसको उस time
Mhm.
पे तो it was, I wouldn't say it was nascent, like freelancing in Pakistan has been is pretty old I think,
Yeah.
कि जब 10-15 साल से लोग more or less किसी फॉर्म में ऑनलाइन फ्रीलांसिंग कर रहे हैं. आई
Mhm.
थिंक बस हुआ ये कि पिछले कुछ साल में इन द पास्ट मे बी जो है ना पिछले 2-3 साल it has popularized more. And even if you look at these platforms founded in 1998, so you can see like, it used to
Oh,
be a really really
right. Oh God.
पुरानी
Right.
एक like freelancing platform, and then it
Mhm.
evolved into something else. तो फिर वो Upwork बन गया, freelancers उसमें आ गए. I think popularized पाकिस्तान में पिछले कुछ सालों में हुआ in the past 5 years.
Right.
तो अब तो it's like pretty big, but that comes with its own kind of set of challenges as well, because freelancers ज़्यादा हैं, so customers in the market have more options to choose from, so it's more
Mhm.
competitive. करंट मैं जिस फेज में काम कर रहा हूँ, जिस स्पेस में, उसमें आई हैव सीन दैट
Mhm.
वही जो पहले लोग फ्रीलांसर्स थे, नाउ दे हैव ट्रांजिशन इनटू व्हाट वी कॉल एज प्रोडक्ट लाइक पीपल. तो वो क्या
Right.
करेंगे, अपनी कोई एक ऐप बनाएंगे एंड देन दे विल ट्राई टू मोनेटाइज दैट इनटू द
I've
ग्लोबल
actually
मार्केट.
seen that more, and I'm hearing about this more often now than before because fairly, I think people were just working on one-off projects, right? Project Aya, you're done with it and then give it back to the client. But now I feel like they're actually working on those products themselves as well. Okay, how to monetize the product that I've built as an agency or as a developer, and then how to like keep that sort of connection going with the person who requested for it in the first place. So I think that is really happening now more now than often than before.
True,
So
and
yeah.
we see that shift in our
Mhm.
like the partners that we work with. हम देख
Mhm.
रहे हैं कि पाकिस्तान से like a lot of developers are building their own apps,
Yeah.
and they're putting them out there in the global market for people to consume, and they monetize that as a business. तो
Yes.
पहले ये था कि फ्रीलांसिंग में आप किसी और के लिए काम कर रहे होते थे, अब
Mhm.
वही चीज़ आप अपनी खुद बना रहे हैं,
बिल्कुल.
and you're kind of selling it. तो वो एक ट्रांजिशन मैंने देखा है, but freelancing still exists
Yes.
because product and apps and startups are not for everyone.
Mhm.
तो फ्रीलांसिंग में अभी भी लोग, आई थिंक, बट आई हर्ड, आई हैव एक्चुअली बीन वेरी डिस्कनेक्टेड पिछले 1-2 साल से,
Mhm.
लेकिन वही आई थिंक चल रहा है. पीपल आर ट्राइंग टू गो एंड फाइंड वर्क ऑन फाइवर,
Right.
अपवर्क, लेकिन वो थोड़ा सा competitive काफ़ी ज़्यादा हो गया है. एंड इन फैक्ट दैट्स, आई थिंक, अगेन एज एन अपॉर्चुनिटी मैं लोगों को ये कहता हूँ कि अच्छा, अगर आप इफ यू कैन नॉट फाइंड फ्रीलांस वर्क,
Mhm.
you can always switch into these things, like what's keeping you from finding a developer friend, building an app and putting it in front of like hundreds and thousands of people out
Yeah.
there in the world
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
monetizing it. I've
Yep.
seen people do it. We work with partners who do it, so why not?
True. But then I also want to understand, Saad, कि freelancer community may, I think right now, like you said, कि it is competitive, but I really want to hear from you, कि if you have any advice for people who are just getting started, because especially after I started this series, I was getting a lot of questions as well, right? And more so related to Web3, because Web3 is now this new domain, right? वहाँ पे it's less competitive than, the other sort of industries that are a little more saturated in terms of freelancing, like projects as well. So I just want to understand, like, what is your generic advice for people just getting started as a freelancer? And also if you have any advice for specific Web3 freelancers as well.
Yeah, so I think उसमें advice मेरे पास यही है कि try to do as much projects as possible,
Mhm.
because you would need to I think freelancing में सिर्फ दो core चीज़ें हैं जो अभी तक
Yeah.
मैंने देखी हैं. One is you need to be able to communicate with the
Mhm.
client what you're doing, and that communication actually helps you later on in life as well, in your corporate life या जिधर भी आप करते हैं काम.
True.
So one part is communication, and the second one is the actual delivery of the project.
Mhm.
So if you want to end up in freelancing, or if you want to go into that space, I think the first thing you need to do is like really nail the delivery, like understand कि delivery है क्या. कोई आपको project deployment के लिए कहता है, कोई आपको कहता है कि यार अच्छा ये Web3 पे ये project deploy करना है, blockchain
Right.
पे करना है, कुछ भी करना है. First you need to be able to understand the technicalities of it and deploy it. And it's not just about technical deployment, you could be a content writer as well. पहले आपको trade आना चाहिए, and
बिल्कुल.
वो आपको
Yeah. Yeah.
कैसे आएगा if you try to practice as much as possible and put projects out there. एक दफा projects हो गए, उसके बाद तो it's just about talking to people
Mhm.
and finding your clients, and eventually just building your portfolio. So I think two things, like one is delivery of the work, and the second one is the communicating or
Yeah.
communication. I think those are two major important things for freelancing for anyone, whether it's journal freelancing or in web3.
Mhm. Now that you're talking about communication, I think that's one thing that we're completely overlooking as well as a community in Pakistan, because वहाँ पे हमारे पास hard skills बहुत ज़्यादा हैं, but there is a lack of soft skills, right? And I think you've been a very strong advocate of that since the very beginning. And communication, yes, is the biggest key in having, one-to-one relationships with clients and also building a community. So in terms of that, like how do you think it's vital for developers or anyone in Pakistan in general who's trying to build communication skills, which could be again, relevant for workplace or joining a community or building one on your own?
So I would say इस point पे तो कि डिलीवरी वाले या एक्चुअली स्किल वाले तो आपको पाकिस्तान में हर कोई
बिल्कुल.
यंग लोग मिल जाते हैं.
Mhm.
So the paramount thing, the foundational thing which differentiates you is your communication style.
Mhm.
And that's why anyone who's getting into this, I would recommend them getting into अंडरस्टैंडिंग के कम्युनिकेट कैसे करते हैं, प्रोजेक्ट कैसे करते हैं, किस चीज़ पे व्हाट्सएप यूज़ करते हैं, किस चीज़ पे ईमेल करते हैं, ईमेल को
Yeah.
लिखना है तो उसका क्या तरीका होता है. आई लर्न एट गूगल एक्चुअली हाउ टू राइट प्रॉपर ईमेल्स, बिकॉज
Wow.
गूगल में हमें शुरू में वी गेट अ लिटिल कोर्स ऑफ हाउ डू यू मैनेज योर ईमेल्स, हाउ डू यू कम्युनिकेट, how do you use slide decks to present your ideas,
Mhm.
how do you use a sheet, जब आपने sheet कब यूज करनी है, गूगल डॉक कब यूज करना है. सो आई थिंक प्रोडक्टिविटी इज स्टिल, आई थिंक वेरी वेरी फाउंडेशनल लेवल स्किल जो पाकिस्तान में मैंने इतनी ज़्यादा नहीं देखी. क्योंकि अगर तो आपने अपने आइडियाज़ को ऑर्गेनाइज करना है, अगर आपने उसको प्रेजेंट करना है, स्पेशली इन अ रिमोट वर्क इन्वायरमेंट, अगर
Yes.
स्पेशली आपके क्लाइंट्स के साथ काम करना है इंटरनेशनली, तो यू नीड टू बी एबल टू बी रियली गुड एट स्लाइड कैसे बनानी है, गूगल डॉक कैसे बनाना है, ट्रिक्स या शीट कैसे बनानी है. अच्छा, फिर मैंने क्या चीज़ ईमेल में लिखनी है, क्या चीज़ मैंने कॉल पे बतानी है, हाउ डू आई डू सिंक्रोनस एंड एसिंक्रोनस कम्युनिकेशन, मैंने
Mhm.
किस टाइम पे तंग नहीं करना, क्या चीज़ मैंने स्लैक पे लिखनी है, क्या चीज़ किस चीज़ के लिए मैंने व्हाट्सएप करना है. एंड क्योंकि मैंने ये भी चैलेंज देखा है विद पाकिस्तानी यंग पीपल के वो दे आर नॉट एबल टू फाइंड आउट द राइट वेज, एंड देन दे ऑलवेज रन इनटू अ चैलेंज कि वो वॉइस नोट्स पे काम चल रहा होगा. अब उस
बिल्कुल.
तरह वॉइस नोट पे आपका काम तो नहीं चलता ना. सो
Mhm.
the point is कि you have to really nail down what are the ways of working,
Right.
take a few courses, work with some clients, learn this, या किसी वैसे किसी के लिए साथ जो है ना just be their intern or apprentice and
Mhm.
learn this to be able to understand this whole process of communication, project management,
Yep.
productivity, tools, I think is core to success as a freelancer or generally as a smart worker in this environment.
No, that's amazing. But one last question, Saad, since we did really well with time, by the way. Really good. Like an आखिरी सवाल, since this series is more catered towards people in their 20s, right? What do you think people in their 20s should invest their time in?
So yeah, that's a good one. I think invest your time in like as many experiences as possible. Like experience, अगर मैं तो इसको थोड़ा सा
Mhm.
summarize करूँ, तो उस वक्त आपको, I think like the another way to think about this is that you would want to diverge as much as possible
Right.
ड्यूरिंग योर ट्वेंटीज. क्योंकि
Mhm.
ट्वेंटीज में आपको ये नहीं पता कि आपको क्या चीज़ पसंद है. दैट्स इवेंचुअली समथिंग यू लैंड इन योर थर्टीज एंड देन यू फाइंड आउट.
Yep.
तो ट्वेंटीज में यू हैव टू ट्राई आउट एवरीथिंग दैट्स पॉसिबल. लाइक ट्राई टू मीट पीपल, ट्राई टू cross pollinate, try new projects, try to invest your time in not just one thing. I
Mhm.
think the worst thing that you can do is just invest your time and your effort and your energy in one thing.
Right.
Like I think when people say in their 20s कि अच्छा जी मैंने जो है ना ये चीज करनी है, and this is what I'm gonna do. I think that's a little risky because 20s में तो आपका time है to explore the world,
Correct.
see what the flavors the world has to offer, what kind of people you can actually meet, आपने कितनी discoveries की हुई हैं, कितने लोगों से मिले हैं, क्या क्या आप कर सकते हैं, all these kind of things. So
Mhm.
to narrow yourself down in your
Yeah.
20s is the worst thing that you can do. So explore as much as possible, travel as much as possible, try to meet as people as much as possible. और मीट से ये मुराद है कि अगर आप इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजीनियर हैं, then you
Mhm.
should know what poetry and literature is. You should spend your time in learning different disciplines, or
Mhm.
at least learning of them. कि यार अच्छा ये क्या है, history क्या है, and I miss that. Abhi jaake I'm discovering those pleasures of life ke 30s mein aake, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in things like history, I'm interested in other
Right,
things as well. तो
right.
अगर आपने 20s में एक्सप्लोर कर लिया होता है,
Mhm.
जिसको स्टीव जॉब्स हैज यू नो रियली कॉइंड डाउन टू द वर्ड कॉल्ड लिबरल आर्ट्स, मतलब it's not Steve Jobs who coined that word, but he said कि
Yeah.
if you mix technology and liberal arts, so
Yes.
you can, you know, you come up with something very interesting. तो liberal arts I think पाकिस्तान में बहुत मिसिंग है. या फिर जो लोग लिबरल आर्ट्स कर रहे होते हैं वो दूसरे डिसिप्लिन में नहीं जाते. सो इफ यू आर एनी यंग पर्सन, you would want to invest your time in as much diverse things as possible
Right,
and then see the outcomes in your 30s. Yeah.
right. And what should they invest their money in?
So in terms of money, I again would not, you know, it's a tricky one. Ke
Yeah.
20s में आप इतने, where would you get the money first of all to invest, and why would you want to invest in? मैं ज़्यादा हक में नहीं हूँ वैसे कि आप 20s में जो है ना
Mm-hmm.
ज़्यादा चीज़ों में इस तरह इन्वेस्ट करें. हाँ, आप देख लें कि अगर आपने कहीं, you would want to collectively invest with someone maybe in
Right.
something,
Mm-hmm.
but invest in experiences more as compared to, you know,
Yeah.
you can also invest in crypto and all of these things, but try to keep diversified investments is what I
Yes.
would say in some.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And the last one, since you also talked about mindfulness and all of that, I would really want to know, okay, where should people invest their energy in? Because again, balancing, you know, work-life balance is really important and key. So where do you think they should be investing their energy?
I think invest your energy in whatever helps you learn something new. This is invest your energy in whatever helps you learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my quick take on this. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Saad.